You're listening to STAGR Cast, brought to you by STAGR Gear. Welcome back to another episode of STAGR Cast. We're sitting down here tonight with the one and only Greg Gove, a.k.a. the Humble Harvester.
Yeah, I don't know how much time I have tonight. I'm high on egg right now.
Yeah, the guy just rifled an egg sandwich from a gas station before he started this, so he's all paunched out.
Adam's got me lifting weights down. I've got to make sure I don't lose any mass.
Egg salad from the gas station.
Yeah,
it's a gamble, but
you shouldn't eat your dinner where you pump your gas.
That's fair. That's fair. We also tonight we have Shawn Lambert, who we did a short few episodes ago, a friend of ours. So we're all sitting down here. Greg's laid right up next to a fire right now. It's cooking, so
looking cozy.
Cold spring day. So I think we're just gonna kind of do a little round table, talk some deer stories, some funny stuff here and there, some near misses, the ones that get away, kind of do a little bit of that and kind of go from there. I mean, one story you were just telling me recently, you just went out and checked some cameras, weren't you, Greg? That's pretty. I think you should start with that because that's funny.
I've got a situation going right now, so went and checked some cameras and put some fresh batteries in it. And this place is about 20 minutes from my house, and I get down. I got this little rock pile, and I have a little burlap camo that goes around it, and I put my name. I got permission. I put my name.
This is Vermont.
On it. Yep.
Yeah.
And so I go down, check on the stand, and check the camera, and I get down there, and there's 12 cigarette butts, 2 natural ices,
ooh,
and a pile of human shit in my stand. And I'm like, what the
in the
hell?
stand?
On the
stand.
rock. Yep, on the
Okay.
stand, toilet paper, everything. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So, but little did this guy know I have a camera that's like pretty much like 5 yards to the left, and I got 3 videos of who I think it is. So, I know who you are.
Little drama.
Yeah.
Yep.
He wears what a flagger would wear for an orange vest with the big white
job sites,
reflective cross on it. So
yeah.
I'm not gonna out you on Facebook. I'm not one of those guys that's gonna be like, put the video up and be like, this is you, we need to talk.
Oh God, I get tired of seeing those all the time, especially during deer season.
Yeah, this is you, we need to talk.
So he just hopped in the burlap blind stand thing, and sure enough,
he had himself a good hunt. And then at the end, he's like, "Well, might as well shit."
So this wasn't a near miss story. This was a bullseye.
Oh, he hit it direct hit. But I don't think it really affected the deer movement much. But it was so I texted the game warden just to let him know. Like I sent him the videos, and I'm like, just so you know, like, I hate littering, like, worse than anything. So I'm less mad about the shit as I am about the cigarette butts and
the
beer.
natty ice cans.
You know, I picked it all up, and I'm like, so that's got me a little down right now. But
is this in the spot where the clamato buck was?
It is, yes.
So you should tell the story on that thing real quick. The clamato buck.
There's not really
I know it's not a story, but you hunted him kind of came to fruition the same time that you found Gandalf, right? You had a big buck in Vermont going. You had a big buck in New Hampshire going. 2
big bucks, yeah. And actually, the first year that I found that spot, I was sitting there, and every day I'd either see a bear or a deer. I was seeing deer every day, and I knew he kept coming through right after dark, but it was like 10 minutes after shooting light, and this is bow season. So finally, like, I was, the more October was going on, I was feeling really good. Well, my brother is like, hey, yeah, we're getting married in October. And I'm like, okay. There's more to that story than that, but anyway, so I'm like, go to his wedding. Well, lo and behold, that one night I'm at the wedding, that buck comes through, and he's probably what do you think he's a 200-pound big old 8-pointer.
He's like 200, 210, big old 8-pointer, probably 125, 130 inch buck. Great Vermont buck.
Sky
huge
high
Vermont buck.
G2s.
Oh, yeah.
And he walked right by my stand during legal shooting, when I definitely would have been there. So
you've had some ouchie stories like that. That seems like
I've had.
Well, I got a question. Yeah, go ahead.
I've had some ouch towns there, but anyway. So then I just played cat and mouse with him the rest of the year, and then the following year, and actually, somebody got him. Somebody got him last year or the year before. So I actually did get confirmation.
Wasn't it like late last season? Some muzzleloader got him.
Yeah, it was a guy that has a farm over there, and he's a pretty cool guy. So yeah, I was happy. But what was your question, bud?
So my question is, do you think that it was a coincidence, or do you think he came by because you weren't there?
Good question. But the one thing I will say is I never got busted in there, no matter what. So I never got busted by deer smelling me. So But it's very possible he knew I was in there.
I was just thinking about that when that happens to me.
That stuff
It's like,
is.
I wonder why.
Because
yeah.
you remember the Charlie Foot episode we did there?
Yeah.
So John, I think it was. We posted a picture of it. I have to look up the name, but the guy, I should know the name, killed this giant buck, and he had this buck patterned to like this. He was sitting up above a cut somewhere, and he had a tree stand. He had them all patterned, and every time he would sit there, the buck wouldn't come through because that buck had the hunter pattern. So one night he brought his sleeping bag, stayed overnight in the stand. The buck thought he wasn't there, and then sure as shit, he killed it the next morning.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've
Threw 'em
heard of
off.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard of that happening on bear bait. So like it happened to me the first year I tried to bait bear in New Hampshire, and it was literally right when I left every night they'd come out, and
So they just had you patterned?
I was just in a bowl, and I think my scent was just swirling around. But those things are incredible.
I almost wonder if some of it's the age of the ground scent. That when they do come through, they kind of
Can gauge it, kind of
put a timeline on you almost. Like,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
But they say like some people like put their cameras high in trees, pointed down, and I've never had other than that one buck in Maine last year that like he just
he saw
scooted out
that
of the
camera, he was
territory.
gone.
But other than that, I mean, Suge Knight, I had probably 3,000 pictures of him. Never cared.
I think some of them care, some of them don't
Yep.
care. Because I've had big bucks that have come to be 3 feet away from a camera staring at it with the ones that have the infrared lights on them, and they don't give a shit. And then there's others that see it and they're gone.
Yeah.
I see that does are more weary of it than bucks, it seems like.
Yeah.
I wonder if some cameras make more noise than others.
They could click
too.
and stuff.
'Cause
Yeah.
some of mine, you can hear them. You know,
Yeah.
there's like a click when it goes off, but
Yep. For sure.
a lot of variables.
Yeah. Didn't you end up killing a doe in that spot last year? Or
I got a
something?
couple of those.
That's like a oak pinch point or something, wasn't it?
Yep. Wicked Oak pinch point, and so the bear I haven't got a bear in there yet because I've been sitting on the ground. I got to get up in the air. But 2 years in a row I got doe in there, and then 2 years in a row I was muzzleloader doe day in there, and nice bucks walked by me both days. Like clockwork.
You have like a nice 6-pointer or something one
Yep.
year. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And then, but there's another guy that hunts above me, like probably 500 yards above me, and he's shot some really nice ones in there over the years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting spot. So you really didn't hunt that spot that much
No,
this year.
there
So you don't know when he left you a nice surprise
it
right
was
in your stand?
December. Yeah, I got the.
Oh yeah, you had the pictures.
He was in there with a crossbow during muzzleloader season, which he
Dropping a load on the stand. Damn.
He committed a crime on my.
He cried.
He committed a crime on my heart there. But we'll see each other again. He'll be. Cool,
Oh, I'm sure he'll be back. He probably means a good spot. Your name's right on the blind, right?
I mean, this day and age, like there's cameras everywhere.
Oh,
Come
yeah.
on,
You can't do
You
anything.
can't do that shit anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Literally. I didn't ever think anyone actually did that. I thought that was always just like a running joke, you know?
I've heard stories of
that's
guys
wild.
sitting in their stands and people will like pull up and
Drop
go
trout.
number two, and they don't realize they're up there.
Yeah,
you know, but
Yeah. Most everyone I've ever ran into in the woods is generally friendly. There's always going to be the couple people that are not so nice, and you'll see that on Facebook in groups, people stealing tree stands. I think there was one this year, like somewhere out in like Michigan, some guy, he had a camera looking at his tree stand, and like some guy had like snuck in and loosened all the straps on his tree stand, and I
man,
think they
that's
arrested the guy because
Wow.
yeah, pretty crazy. There's always a bad egg that ruins it for everybody.
Oh, for sure. I had a guy in New Hampshire last year when I was bow hunting. I was coming out, and he was headed in at like, I don't know, 10:30 in the morning. He had his kid and a buddy with him. He's like, yeah, we're headed in trying to get my kid his first deer, which if you're trying to get your kid their first deer, that's a terrible place to start with a bow.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Hey.
I was like, yeah, good luck, whatever. And he's like, yeah, just so you know, I hunt in here. I've got cameras over there. It's like,
congratulations.
Little flex on you there.
am I supposed to leave now? There's like 500,000 acres here,
Yeah.
you know, public land. I was like, okay.
Didn't you have a guy that was searching for your truck, tracking you down or something? Knew you're hunting a big buck and was tracking your truck down all
I
over
got
New
followed.
Hampshire. Yeah,
I don't want to flex, but I got followed.
gotta
Yep.
love it.
Yep.
That's wild.
Over my near miss story. Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's what that was about.
You might as
That-
well
Might as well
roll
get
right
it.
into
Yeah.
that.
Hop into it.
So
All right.
what are we each going to tell a near miss story?
Yeah, and hit a near miss. I know you got a few, but yeah.
Can I tell an Ansel near miss after too?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
perfect.
Go for it,
ahead,
Shawn.
All right. So, it was probably 25th of November ish. I had hunted Vermont a lot. Like I said in that last podcast there, I don't generally leave until I've got my buck tag in Vermont filled. Kind of hard for me to leave home with that in my pocket. It's getting easier to leave, I'm not going to lie. But so anyway, it was late, and I'd made it over maybe a handful of times, when I had some time. And then this weekend, the 25th, whatever, I made it over again. It was kind of scratching my head, not really sure where to go, what to do, and was feeling kind of stagnant. And I said, screw it, I'm going to go to a place that I've never been, that I've wanted to scout and haven't got to. Sometimes I think I do better on a place I've never stepped foot in. Just
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You don't put as much into the equation that doesn't deserve to be there. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got in the truck at daylight and just started driving and said, well, get over there when I get there and we'll hunt around. Like I said, never been in there, and driving over that way, and I could see some white stuff up on top from overnight. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough. That's where I wanted to be. And not that I'm a seasoned tracker by any means, but it helps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I took this road that I knew where it was anyway, and took that up into there, and there was a truck. So I turned around, I came back out, and there was a Y in the road. So I took that Y, and I drove up that Y for probably a mile, and said, sure, pulled over, hopped out, and I didn't make it 80 yards, and there was a good buck track in that probably 3/4 inch of snow. It's kind of snow that, like, the leaves poke out of the top still. You can still hear the leaves, but everything was white. So I took it for like 100 yards, and he was headed back down the road. And I said, well, I'm probably never going to get close enough to this deer to shoot him. And I might just end up in front of that other guy wherever he ended up. I don't know. Maybe he went the other way too. So I said, well, screw it. I'm going to go around. I'm going to kind of hike around to the back side of this, and I'm going to get the wind in my face and get up the elevation I want to be and just still hunt my way, or maybe I'll run into him. And so that's what I did. I got up to the line of green growth, and up above me was really rocky. And I stayed right on that line. Below me was all hardwood. Just poked down through there, grunting every little while, and I'd come to a spot where that hardwood was starting to get real thick, a lot of whips, and there was some old cutting down below. And I made like a 90-degree turn, just went straight down to the cut, hit this old skid trail, and then 90-degree right up that road. There was a rock there, so I'll sit here for a while, and sat there for like 45 minutes. And like actually we were just talking about, anyone that knows me knows that if it's colder than 65, my toes might be cold. So I sat on that rock for 45 minutes, an hour, and grunted a few times, and didn't hear anything, didn't see anything. So I wanted to keep moving before my feet got cold, and I didn't go probably another 50 yards, and there's in the melting, it's probably high 30s now. Snow's getting real slushy, and there's a good track, and it's fresh. It's not melted out at all, and I can't tell you for sure it was that deer, but
chances are probably.
My guess is it was that buck. I think he had come up into those cuts, found a doe, and, the rest is history. So I'm like, shit, he beat me up here. All right, what am I going to do now? And I see like 4 feet to the left of that, there's a doe track. So, well, this might not all be bad. It's melting a little bit. The ground's starting to get a little quieter. Take about 3 steps on it. Doe jumps up. She's 15 yards in front of me. Runs right out in front of me. Shoulder the rifle, pops safety off. I'm like, I know he's here somewhere. And about the time I lose the sound to her running down behind me, I hear another deer just walking straight in front of me. I got this big boulder between us. So I just walk straight at it with my gun up, pop around the back side, and he's 30 yards from me, and he's headed right up the bank. And I thought he was a huge, like, real wide 4-pointer. Because all I could see was he was really wide, really heavy horned, and he had 2 big forks. And it was so thick, I just couldn't find him. I couldn't get him in the scope. And he banged a left, about the time I saw him, he saw me. I don't think he really knew what I was. He didn't get my wind. He knew he wanted to go with her. He was kind of perplexed. So now I'm following noise with my gun. I can't see him. It's so thick. And he's 40 yards from me. And he's just paralleling that road. And all of a sudden I see some brown movement in the trees. And I put the gun on it, and I can see half of his ear to the black of his nose, to the base of his horns, and probably 5 inches below his jaw. And I center it on what neck I can see and squeeze it off. Deer drops.
Ooh.
I'm like, all right, that's it. It's done. Put another one in the gun just in case. And then I can hear the deer like walking again. Like, what the hell? I get up there. I'm looking around. No blood, no deer. Can't find anything. I'm like, come on, man. I know I dumped him, right? Like,
was there enough snow there still that you could see like tracks in the snow?
So in the green stuff, there wasn't much at all. Like, just clung to the branches because it was so thick. And it was dripping off. You know, it was getting slushy. So I'm just like, what has happened? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? I got to figure this out. So I start looking around, and I can see where he fell. And he had his front feet on like a shale rock, and he had slid down it. And so what happened was when I shot, I scared the bejesus out of him. And when he went to take off, he slipped and fell.
Man.
What's the chance of that?
So I find a drip of blood, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this deer a few minutes. I got to try to figure out what happened. I don't know how I want to approach the situation yet, you know? And I've got nothing to track him on. Whatever's there to track him on it's going quick.
Yep.
And I find about a handful of white hair, a 1/4 inch long, just like blown everywhere. Ooh. So I skunned the front of his neck. And I only made it another confirmed 80 yards on that deer, and it was, less than a teaspoon of blood.
Yep.
Just a little graze wound.
Yeah, just grazed the front of him. Man. And I spent the rest of that afternoon and the whole next day just grid searching, looking. I was pretty sure he'd live, but I wanted to hope that he made it, but I also want to do my due diligence, and
absolutely.
That tears me up,
Nothing you really did wrong, though. I mean, you did what you took the shot you had, and can't hang your head.
Yep.
Do you think now that because this is before you had your peep gun, right?
Yep.
So that's your scope. You had a bolt, right?
Yep.
Do you think you would have been like a better situation with your peep gun being so thick and tight in there, or not?
Right.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just couldn't get him in the scope.
I just couldn't get it. He was so close and it was so thick.
Yeah.
Just like beach whips, just that like high stem count shit.
Yeah, super super high stem count.
Yep.
And it was just like, all of them are big around as a 1/4.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep.
So
old deflectors right
not
there.
Not a lot of room to put a bullet through.
Yeah.
I also think that maybe, like, looking back, hindsight, what they say about that, but maybe if I'd have just, like, blatted at him, got him to look down the hill at me and shot him straight on rather than in the side of the neck, because you've got esophagus, spine, and then artery, where sideways you got more, room for error. There's more of a margin for error, but, it's deer hunting. It's the way it goes.
Do you think, so you go up through there, doe blows out. Do you think he thought you were like another buck coming up trying to pull his doe, basically just walking up?
I've thought about that so many times and wondered, because the way I walked down the edge of that thick stuff and then walked up the other side of it, kind of right angled that group of, or that thick stuff. I don't know why they didn't bust out of there before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure they were going to let me walk by them.
You think they're just locked down right there? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, down. I had never figured out why they let me. Not only did I walk past them, I sat there for 45 minutes. Like, they had to have known I was there. There's no way they didn't. But yeah, that was the one that got me followed.
Oh, yeah. And because you told that story to
and I had a trail camera picture of a deer that I thought was him, but I don't think it was. I think it was just.
Was that from the buck that you think was like his shed, that you found a big shed in that area? I think we talked about that in the last little short we did. Do you think that was his shed, or
no? I don't.
Different buck.
I think it was a different buck. Because that one didn't have a brow on one side.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And I think that's like a running gene pool in there.
Just missing one brow.
Yep, missing the right brow. Yep. But like 10 days later, right at the end of season, there was an older gentleman. He was probably mid-60s. He'd been hunting the bottom side of this road, and he'd been dragging all of his stuff in a jet sled. He was going in like just his underlayers, and I think he was sitting dark to dark.
Yep.
And I'd seen him in the area, and he ended up killing that deer. I'm 99% sure it was that deer. I'd like to run into him one day and ask him about it. Ask him if he had any holes in his neck. But the antlers were just like so unique, and I knew that he was hunting probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles from where I was. That I dare say it was, I think it was him. And it was actually a 6-pointer. It had brows that were, inch maybe. And 2 really big forks, really heavy horned deer, probably 19 inches wide.
Oh, no kidding. Just a big old 6-pointer. Just
big
beefy.
frame, heavy horn, just not much going on.
No kidding.
Yep.
Do you think calling right there in that situation would have helped you at all? Like, as like you're going up through?
Gave it the old Rodney Elmer grunt.
I'd say that.
Probably could have worked. Probably would have helped. Yeah, I absolutely think so. Because he didn't know what was going on, and I think he was so like infatuated.
Yeah, he just
he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave. No. I also think about too, like, what if I would have just stood there? Would he have come down and tried to cross that road to go back to that doe and give me a wide open shot?
There's a million what ifs that would.
Right. Then you think back, it's like, well, what if he didn't? And I would have kicked myself and said, well, I should have just shot when I could have. So
you're a Vermonter. You take the first good opportunity you got.
He gave me an opportunity at his neck, and
that's usually a high
probability shot. It wasn't like it was something that I was trying to shoot him up the ass or something. I didn't think that deer would be alive for another 30 seconds after that, but
And the fact you see him drop.
yeah, and then I saw him drop, and I was
slides
like,
on shape.
oh, I just got a bullet in him.
Yep.
I got a bullet in him. He's
Shit,
in trouble. But nope.
Talk about a high to a low, man.
Highest to highs, the lowest to lows. That's what keeps us doing it.
In those situations, though, you do what you think's right in the moment. And
yeah.
I mean, you can look back on hindsight.
It's instinctive almost. It's like,
it is. You just take over.
Yeah.
There's a sickness to your stomach that when something like that happens and you're trying to figure it out, that just, it's like nothing else. You're
Keep
all
you up
alone
all
in the
night.
woods and you're like, what is going on here?
Oh, yeah.
You get no one to turn to in that situation. You're just like, what the fuck?
That'll keep you awake all night long, man.
Here we are 2 years later still talking about
Still
it.
talking about it.
Well, the
And he's
good thing
dead.
is there's genetic in there where, I mean, could get one similar in there and you still hunt that area. So.
Oh, yeah.
That deer kind of cued you in on some stuff in that area, too, as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that deer was brought me whole new places with my, big woods hunting, and
That's
just like
awesome.
opened up my horizons of like there's more out there. Don't get fixated. Like this is big woods, and sometimes you got to move.
At the very least, you learn stuff from it. And that's
Absolutely.
all that
You
matters.
got to take something from every.
Oh, yeah.
It can't all be negative, right?
That's the thing.
There's
You just
always
something to learn every day you go out.
Absolutely. There's always. I always say there's always light in a dark situation.
Yep.
If you can find something that benefits you or you learn from, then it wasn't all bad.
Yep, that's right.
Amen. Still a good day out in the big woods. You see deer in the big woods. That's a good day.
Better than any day I've ever had at work.
That's a good point right there.
You're a young guy and you got a long hunting career ahead of you too.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. What do you got for a near miss over there, guy? I know you got a few.
You want me to? Okay.
I want to. I think we should talk about this one first, and then you have your other ones. Your Ansel gallstone buck or kidney stone buck there, the New Hampshire gallbladder buck.
Oh, I think I already.
Did you talk about that one?
Maybe not.
I didn't hear about it.
Go over that one
I'll do
real
it in
quick. 'Cause that's a
abridged
funny
version
story.
of it,
And then
right?
I know you got a few big bucks, near misses and stuff.
So I think that was the podcast we threw in the garbage because we were both tired.
Oh yeah,
I think I told it on there.
Yeah.
So it was a couple years ago. Ansel had a cow tag in Maine, and he wasn't like feeling the best. Mm-hmm. And like he lives for partridge hunting. Well, I couldn't even get him out of the rig.
This when he had the bad backache?
Yes.
Okay, I remember this happening, but
So,
I don't think you told the story.
But he had a cow tag up in that adaptive unit, and I told him, I said, it's going to be a war zone up there. I said, we're going to have to go way in the woods. And he's like, I can't. He goes, I'll be lucky to get a couple 100 yards off the road. And so I was like, oh, something's not right. But anyways, we go up there, had a good time. He got his moose. We had a great time, headed home. The whole time he's still not like he's trying to wash the pain away with Coors Light, and it's not working. And so
something's wrong.
Yeah, we get, and all the while I'm like wondering what's going on in New Hampshire. I'm after Gandalf at this point, and I'm like, God, we gotta get home. I gotta get in the woods. So we get home, and I have this idea that I'm going to go out and. It was like, I think it was opening day at muzzleloader.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm going to be up on that ridge in the morning and go to bed, set my alarm clock early. That night, my wife got a call. Ansel's like in severe pain. And he's like, he's a tough guy. So for him to be in pain and say, like, I got to go to the ER, it was pretty serious. So we go to the ER. His freaking gallbladder was like totally blown out.
Really?
Yeah. So it
had popped.
Yeah, and it was full of stones, and it was not good. So, we're there all night long. Well, we leave at like 3 a.m., and I'm like, there's no freaking way I'm going hunting. Mm-hmm. And I should have just freaking gone, but
I think it was later than that. It was like you texted me when you like left the hospital. It was like 4 something.
Yeah,
where you're like, I'm not gonna go out now or something.
It was late. Well, lo and behold, like right at my stand, looking at me at opening light. There's a nice 8-pointer just standing there. And then like multiple pictures of him working a scrape, and like the wind was right. Everything was cool. So we nicknamed that the gallbladder buck, but I never got a shot at him. But I gave Ansel a lot of shit about that, but nothing he could do.
Yeah,
but
you can laugh about it now.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
But I think that buck's still alive actually, but
nobody's killed that buck in there, have they?
No, I don't think so. But But I
Are
got
all these names on the fly? Like, obviously that one's explanatory, but
Greg names bucks more than anybody I know as far as coming up with names.
these are the most like in-depth.
Like clamato. What was that one based off? That was based
That was
off.
based off Shane's dad. We just thought it was a funny word.
That's right. Wasn't he like drunk yelling that at you some night?
Where's the clamato? Yeah. Which we said that on the Shane podcast.
For people who don't know, that clamato's like what you put in like a Bloody Mary. It's like what?
Yeah, it's a
clam and
juice
tomato juice.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would ever drink that, but
Just a
damn.
freaking. So after Suge died, there was another buck out back, and my niece was watching a lot of Blippy. You know who Blippy is? So we named that buck. It was like a kids show. We named that buck Blippy, and he got hit by a car.
So these are on the fly.
They're on the
He comes
fly.
up with the names.
We had a spike horn last year. We called him. We don't want to say what we called him. Maybe not that appropriate.
We had
but-
Top Gun Maverick was the big buck we had on camera in Eustis,
Top Gun
and
Maverick.
then there's Big Sexy and all that stuff. We've talked about the names and stuff.
Big
before.
Healthy, the bottlenose dolphin.
Yeah, Big Healthy. He was a big buck, over 200 pounds. That his face was all deformed. He looked like a bottlenose dolphin.
I don't know if I've ever named one.
I understand that I'm douchey about it. Yeah, but I know fully
Have
aware.
fun
I'm
with
just
it,
doing
though.
it. I'm just having fun with it. You know. So
I don't think I ever named one until I started hanging out with you. So
yeah.
you just got that effect. I'm naming
it's
them all
just
now.
Maybe I'll just
It's
start
just
sending
fun.
the pictures to you and let you name them.
Yeah, he'll come up with them.
What do you got for me?
One.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely.
What's your next near miss?
you want my near miss or you want Ansel's?
Let's start with yours and then we'll get Ansel. Ansel's is funny and
Okay.
let's do yours.
So for my I'm going to tell you about the biggest buck that I ever shot and missed at, and it's kind of a screwed up story. So you got to be a little bit patient with me, but it's not really a diehard hunting story. But it's 2014. I'm vacuuming my stairs at my house, like a good husband, right?
Absolutely.
I get to the top of the flight of stairs, and I'm vacuuming away. I turn the vacuum off, and I turn to go back downstairs, and my right foot goes on the hose and slips. Well, all of a sudden, I'm like surfing down the stairs, dunk, 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 down the stairs, like kind of keeping my wits about me. Well, I hit the landing, and something popped, and now I'm laying in the landing of the stairs, and I look down, and my kneecap is like halfway up my quad, and I look, and I take a look at it, and then the pain was like excruciating, and then all of a sudden, like my whole world started going dark. And I've never had that happen before. Like I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
Well, it was going dark and I had a little bit of light left and I just said, don't be a fucking wimp. And then all of a sudden, boom, I was back. And it was just the weirdest thing ever. So I'm laying there screaming and hollering, and my son comes out of his bedroom. He's been like playing PlayStation or something. He just takes one little look at me and he goes back in his room, shuts the door, keeps playing. My wife calls the ER. Ansel's just happened to be at the house. He's running around in a circle. Oh, bud, you're so fucked, bud. Oh, bud.
Talk about words of encouragement.
Oh, yeah. So my wife's like, she calls the,
Oh, bud, you're fucked, bud.
she calls the fast squad, right? And she's like, he's a big dude. Like, send a big guy. So, like, a fucking half hour later, these two chicks show up. They're like 100 pounds each. They took one look at me and they're like, "This isn't, what are we gonna do?" Ansel's up there looking at my taxidermy with the ambulance driver. Oh yeah, you got that moose, and like there's no urgency, right? So I finally just I'm gonna die here unless I get up. So I jump up on one foot and I hobble into the ambulance. So we go to the thing. Well, turns out I blew my patella tendon out, and it was like a long recovery. So deer season was looking pretty bleak that year. And it was 2 surgeries. I had like a fucking mesh wire figure 8'd so I couldn't bend my leg. Well, I was just getting back to like walking when deer season started. And I couldn't even go up in tree stands or anything. So when we headed out for Maine, me and Ansel headed out for Maine. And of course, 2014, great tracking snow, first week of the season. Of course, when I can't go in the woods. So we pretty much knew it was going to be like a road hunting week up there. We were fine with it.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, just wanted to get up there pretty much, So we had a long week. We didn't really see much for deer. And, I was really hurting pretty bad. And came down to the second to last day. And we kind of have these road systems that we have seen deer at before. So we kind of stick to those systems and stuff. And, of course, everybody, just to reiterate, up in Maine, if you get out of your rig, you shoot from the dirt road on the paper company land, and everything's legal. It's not like Vermont where you can't road hunt. So, but but we were doing what we had to do. So we come around the corner, and down in this cut, I see a deer. And I immediately, like, you could tell it was a gigantic deer. So I like slam it in park, and I grab the binoculars, and I'm looking. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a fucking giant. And it was the biggest buck I've ever seen to this day. It had to have been 2 1/4 to, whatever. It was 2 1/4 at least. And he had antlers that were level with his ears, but like went just up for days, like a tight rack that just went straight up. So I'm like, oh my God, it's a monster. And Ansel's like, he's got his binoculars. He's like, it's a moose. I said, that ain't no fucking moose. So I get out of the rig, throw my clip in, and I got a shooting stick, and I'm aiming, and the thing's just standing there looking at me, and I'm aiming, and I took the best aim of my life. I was so confident when I squeezed that trigger, and I squeezed the trigger, and the buck was in a spot where if it took like one step, it was out of view. So right when I squeezed the trigger, it kind of like looked like it hunched, and then it went into the woods. So I'm like, I got that fucker. I know I did. So we go down there, and the first thing that alarmed me was how far it actually was to get down there, because I had sorely misjudged how far away it was. But we get down there, and of course, I'm colorblind, and this buck's running through the fresh snow, and it's kicking mud up. So every time it kicks mud up, I'm like, blood. And Ansel's like, no, bud. Blood.
Colorblind Greg coming back again.
No blood. And I'm like, so we fall at like 300-400 yards, and there's no blood. And I'm just like so pissed. Like, this is the buck of my dreams. And we come out of the woods. It's pretty apparent I missed the bucket. And I'm like, I don't know how the hell I missed. So I come out, and I was so freaking mad, actually, that Ansel hopped in the rig, and like, I was like, I gotta just walk. I just walked up the road for a while. Well, I paced it off. It was like 400 and some odd yards.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think I think the bullet hit under it. It was way further than I thought. So.
Yeah. What were you thinking how far he was when you got out?
Oh, shit. I knew it was a good poke, but I was thinking like maybe 250, 300.
Yeah.
It was like almost double that.
Those cuts can be deceiving.
Yeah.
They can.
And it was such a big deer that I had no business shooting that far, but I didn't have a rangefinder, and just, but it was
wide open's tough to judge.
Yeah.
But
But it's just a monster track, and it was the kind of a shitty ending to that hunt, but it was just cool. It just, when you see one like that, it's not even like the same species animal, but not really the hunting story, but that's, if you want the truth about my biggest one that ever got away, that's it.
That would have took all your knee pain away right there if you would have.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. I'd been running down after it. And,
You've been flying down through the cut.
Oh, man.
I'm not colorblind, but I shot a deer during muzzleloading one year, right at dark, right before, and by the time I made it over there, it was getting pretty gray, and it had run across some wet, and with no light.
Yep.
I thought it was the same thing.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I went back to the truck, came back with a light, and it was all mud. I mean, the deer was dead, but it didn't. I got terrible luck with muzzleloaders and blood trails. So
muzzleloader's always an adventure for some reason.
Man. It is.
It really is. They don't bleed good. It's always just something weird that happens on muzzleloader hunts.
Yep, for sure. But I feel your pain. I've been in that situation.
Yeah. But the next year, this is just a quick one, but the next year I was feeling better. Went back in that same area. Didn't have any snow, of course. I popped down, Ansel drops me off. I popped down over this bank, and the same area where that big buck was. And you ain't going to believe this, but I'm just still hunting down through, and 10 minutes into the hunt, hadn't seen a deer track or nothing. And I look down at this pile of moose shit, and I'm like, oh, well, there's something alive here anyways. And then I hear crash. And I look up, and there's this freaking deer running from my right to my left. And I'm like, and then it took me a minute, and I saw antlers. But right when I saw antlers, it turned and went straight away from me. It was in the thickest stuff imaginable. But every time I saw a white flicker, I would touch it off. But never shot that deer, but I was just all smiles because I'm like, here, I'm back in the woods. My knee feels good, and life's good. I wasn't really that upset about that one. But so there's big deer up there still, so. But
yeah. What's your Ansel one? Let's tell that one.
You got one you're gonna tell? Or?
Yeah, I can tell mine. So
tell yours. We'll close it out with the Ansel.
I think I don't know if I've fully talked about it on the podcast before. I think I might have brushed on it, but mine's also a Maine buck story. It was from 2020. It was the first year.
2021, right?
2021. Yeah. So it was up in Maine there. up and use this. And it's a piece of woods that we have history with. We run cameras and stuff and know there's a bunch of big bucks in there. And you actually hunted out through there with me this year. And I mean, you can speak for it. It's thick. It's really thick woods. And it's like, do you think it's ever been cut out there? Or you think it's like,
you don't really see stumps.
I don't think it's been cut, or if it was cut a long time ago. Yeah. But there was this old, like, just like this little trail, like a skid trail that they maintain that goes for probably, 2-3 miles out through this piece.
Yep.
And they probably haven't maintained it in, 10 years, because there's blowdowns on it. There's, whips growing up in the trail. And all the way out, I mean, you can still hunt that for 2 miles. And I think the year that this near miss story comes from, it was hotter than hell the first 2 weeks. I was up there sleeping in the truck. It was like 65, 70 for the first week, and then in the 50s. And when this story happened, it was Wednesday of that second week, and it was just starting to cool off a little bit. I think it was probably like high 40s that day, so it was like kind of a breath of fresh air, getting to hunt some cool weather. So I'm hunting out through this trail, and like you can kind of vouch for it. There's scrapes every 50 feet. There's rubs on trees the size of your leg, scrapes every. It's
Hundreds.
Insane. You've never seen more buck sign in a chunk of woods, but it's like they're ghosts at the same time in there. Yeah. I've hunted, I can't even imagine how many times I've still hunted out through there on those bare ground days.
You get off that trail, it's swamp. They could be in, you're not going to go and get them in the swamp.
And it's like the high point of that piece of woods. And I don't know if it's just like a nighttime activity that they're just laying these scrapes down, walking this road, checking does back and forth. But there is a scrape every 50 yards probably, big scrape, like not a small scrape, all the way out through there. So I'd hunted through this piece 2 days before that. Nothing. Never saw a deer. I think I saw a doe one day, just blowing out of there. But this third day, it was a Wednesday, I'm starting to cool down a little bit. I'm hunting out there, and I'm probably a mile in, just creeping, calling, working my way around, just hoping to run into one coming down the trailer, going up the trailer, coming across it. And I get to, like I said, I was about a mile in, and I hear what sounds like, like the sound of like when a moose is like raking a fir tree. It kind of sounds like a paddle beating off a tree. So I'm like, oh, cool, there must be a moose up here. And there's moose in that area. You see the moose shit. It's thick. It's swampy. So I'm like, oh, and there's kind of like a rise in the trail, and it's like over the rise. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to shoot up to this thing. I'm going to see a moose, all excited. And then as I'm working up to it, I'm kind of like walking at a pretty good pace. It's getting louder, and then it sounds more like tines clashing instead of beating on a tree. And as soon as my eyes crest this little rise, it kind of looks down into this bowl. Not much elevation change, but just enough to where you can't see over it. I look, and there's 2 bucks separating, or like they're fighting. They're just separating. A bigger buck's chasing a smaller buck off. Smaller buck goes to the left, crosses back across the trail, goes into a thicket. And then the bigger buck peels to the right. And I'm like gun up in between trying to figure out what's going on. So the big buck pulls to the right, goes into a thicket. Small buck goes to the left in the thicket. Everything's quiet. It's like still for a minute. Like, what the hell's just going on? Like, they're still right here. Nothing took off after that.
Did they see you?
No, they didn't see me.
Okay.
The big buck was just chasing him off. He went to a thicket, and then he pulled back over to the right. So I'm standing there for probably 30 seconds. Next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. The bigger buck bounds back into the thing. I can see some movement over there. And then the smaller buck, which ends up being a really nice 4-pointer, thick horns, heavy, he comes back up across in front of me at like 10 feet. And I got my scope gun. I think it was on like 4 or 5 power. I'm trying to get him in the scope because I was going to shoot. He goes by me, bounding. Couldn't get him in. He peels off to the right. Couldn't get a beat on him. He kind of just walks off.
Did you say you thought that might have been Big Sexy?
It might have been. So it happened so fast. But Big Forks, I think he had brows though, so I don't know if it was Big Sexy or not. So he goes off. I'm like, shit, well, he's gone. But that other buck's still right there in the thicket. So I'm standing there. I pull the grunt tube out. I grunt. And then almost immediately the thing grunts back at me. So I'm like, oh, shit, he's right there. Like, this is going to be awesome. He's going to come right back out thinking I'm that buck again. So I'm standing there, and I'm grunting. He'd grunt right back every time. And we probably stood there for 30 minutes, grunting every couple minutes, and he'd grunt right back. Almost like another hunter's right there, thinking you're grunting back and forth at each other, but like clear as day, it's the buck.
Yep.
Standing there for 30 minutes, nothing's moving, just grunting back and forth. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Finally, after 30 minutes, I'm kind of just off the right side of the trail, standing next to this like stub, and I see movement coming out of that thicket. Deer jumps into the trail. I'm leveled up on it, ready to go. And it's just like that big old doe. So she goes in the trail, perfectly could have shot her. She goes straight across. About 30 seconds later, here comes some more movement, boom, right out in the trail. All I see is just rag, just kind of like the one you described, just inside but super tall.
Yep.
I'm like, yep, pull up. And instead of going where she went straight across the trail and had to get open to her, he kind of hits the trail and immediately goes away from me. So kind of like an ass shot. So I pull up. And safety's off, boom, shoot, and almost like your story, I thought I saw him drop. Mm-hmm. And then he's still going, so I shoot again as he's going through some thick shit. I'm like, oh, I think I hit him. I thought he dropped him. So I get down there. There's no blood. But what he did when he jumped down that trail and was going away, when I shot, he was diving under a blowdown that's probably like 4 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So he was going down as I was pulling the trigger, and he just
Never touched him.
Never touched him.
Damn it.
Thicker than hell in there, but you got to shoot.
That was
It's
your
one of those
200
stories.
pound, that was 200 pounder probably.
That was a big old boy right there.
All right, so I got to ask you then. Do you think if you had a peep gun, you had him dead?
He was probably 60 yards when I shot at him. It is thick in there. I think I could have shot the 4 or 6 pointer that crossed in front of me like 10 feet with a peep gun because it would have been point blank from here to the wall.
Did you own a peep gun at that point?
I did, but bare ground, it was hot. So
Yep.
like I have 2 guns. I have a scope gun and I have the peep gun for tracking and stuff.
Sure.
So I brought the scope gun with me that day. It just didn't work out. But
My contention, though, too, is like even though you got that peep gun and you might be able to get on him better, you're still apt to hit some of them limbs and stuff.
yeah, you can rifle off a lot more shots
You can
though
get
with
a
a peep
lot more
gun.
off, yeah.
That one,
Yeah, you can get on him a lot quicker, and maybe that's all you need.
it could have made a difference for sure. But I think
him
just
leaking.
as I was pulling the trigger, as he was going down, I think I shot right over him. And then when he went under the log and came back up on the other side, it's so thick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I just saw a hole and I shot. But
Right.
What a bear of a drag that would be out of there.
God,
Holy
I mean, you've seen it firsthand how thick and
that's the
miserable
one
it is
I
out
had
there.
to lay
but-
down, remember?
Yeah, that's where Greg died out there this year. Part of Greg is still out there. He lost his cool out there.
Lost my soul out there.
No kidding.
It's good woods. I mean, it's thick. It's very thick woods.
I would love to get in there with a bow.
I think that's honestly your best. If you're going to kill a buck in that area in Maine, that's where you want to be because it's thick, but there's like small little open areas, and the amount of buck sign is just absolutely insane. I've never seen anything like it as far as buck sign goes.
Oh, yeah.
And
I wonder why it's so concentrated right there.
we're still trying to figure it out, but
Got cameras up there. I'm looking forward to go and check them because they've been up there since the end of rifle.
they're
so.
soaking. Yeah. Not a lot of deer get shot out there because it's way out there. It's not like it's like a lot of land in Maine is pretty accessible as far as logging roads go, and cuts and
This
winter
one you
roads and
gotta
stuff.
hike out,
This
yeah.
is a piece you hike out. Yes, there's that trail you can walk out, but you're never gonna drive out there.
Yeah.
At the farthest point out there, you're 5 miles from the truck probably.
Yeah, yeah,
No kidding.
And we hiked all the
I
way
got
out
to
there
get out
that
there
day.
one of these years.
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool out there for sure, and it's something to do if you don't have the snow. At least you know you can go somewhere where there's some deer.
Yeah.
You're not
there's
going to
deer
be
in there.
hiking ridge after ridge after ridge and never see a track. You know?
Right. Right.
But
That's why we go back to that on bare ground days strictly because of the sign
as we know,
versus
yeah.
going up on a mountain on the crunchy leaves where it's it's tougher. It's
You said
lowland
it's,
stuff.
It's low. There's
It's
water
low.
in there. Swamp.
Yeah, swampy. It's
Yep.
low stuff. But
Yep.
I
Always.
found the last couple of years, it seems like a lot of the deer in Maine are hanging low, and they're not up nearly as high as they were back in like 2020 or 2019 or whatever it was.
It seems like every year we get that warm week now.
Yeah, it's almost guaranteed.
It's like it's
We're
just
already
happening.
I'm still burnt out from last year from it. We're like, what are we gonna do the first week of November?
Yeah.
We did everything we could there.
Yeah.
We were up there, second week this year, and it was, 65, 70, except for the last day. And then we finally saw a buck that day. But
Rodney got his that monster for
Yeah.
just you're apt to
you just
you're
got to
apt
be
get
out
one.
there.
You just got to be out there.
There's
yeah.
still deer, and they're still out there.
And that's
sure.
kind of good. It's when you least expect it. Like I'd hunted out that road the 2 days prior, never saw a deer, and then that day just happened to run into them. Happens
Yeah.
when you least expect it. You got to be out there, and that's kind of like what Rodney did this year. He was working down a
Yep.
skid trail, and that thing was just happened to be there, and that's the way it goes.
Yep. Got to try something.
Definitely, you got to be out there to get them, no doubt about it.
Got to give them it.
But yeah, that's my near miss. I've had a few others that I've shot and missed, but that one still lives me today. That was a big old Maine buck, and
Yep.
Being a stand hunter, it's like I've always had really good luck. Never really lost any deer with a rifle, and then once you start that still hunting game, your percentage goes way down. When you're jumping deer, you're not shooting them, from a sitting position.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you want to hear Ansel's?
Yeah, hit us with Ansel's
this
near
is
miss there.
This is the story of how Ansel acquired his new 25-06. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a few years back. We're up in Maine. My dad, Ansel, and me. And Ansel, he'd drop me and my dad off in the mornings. And then he'd ride around, hunt partridge, and pick us up. Well, the first day we go, me and my dad are hunting, and he's riding around. Well, he sees this 4-pointer. And it's like 20 yards off the road. There was a lot of young deer around that year for some reason. I forgot what year it was, but it wasn't that long ago. So he gets out of the rig, and he could see like a building behind the deer. And it's like the only building on this whole logging road. So Ansel's like, no gun. You know, there's a building behind it. He did the right thing. He got out his camera. He was taking some beautiful shots of the deer. You know, we still have those pictures. Nice 4-pointer.
Ansel takes nice pictures. He has a nice camera. Yeah. He takes really nice pictures.
So he's taking pictures while the deer kind of wanders off, and then the guy we were renting the apartment off, who owns the trading post, actually, that he owns the fish and game place up there. He just happened to drive by, and he looked at Ansel, and he says, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, there's a 4-pointer here, but I didn't shoot." He goes, "There's nobody living there. You should have shot." He's like yelling at Ansel. I met up with Ansel that day. I'm like, "You did the right thing.
Yeah.
You never, you 100% did the right thing." But so the next day, he drops me and my dad off again, and we do a morning hunt, and I think he picks us up around 10:30, and he's not happy. I get in the rig. He's all pissed off. I'm like, "What happened?" He says, "I just fucked up bad." I said, what do you mean?" He goes, "I'm driving up the road, and there's this this little cut over hill, and he drives up through, and there's a spike horn standing right in the middle of the open, hundreds of yards of cut, and it's standing right there off the road." So yeah, and this is way up on Paper Company Road, probably 20 miles up on Paper Company Road. And so he puts the rig in park, gets out. He's got one of them 742 Jam Masters.
Jam Master.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's not, if you're going to go riding around, that's not really the gun you want. But he gets out, walks around the truck, puts the clip in, jacks a shell in, aims at the deer, and he then says to the deer, "You're so fucked."
And that's where it all went wrong.
He aims, he shoots. The clip falls out of the gun. He never, he didn't have
never seen it around, right?
He didn't have the clip in. He thought he did everything right, and he then fumbles with the clip as the deer just slowly bounds out the hundreds of yards out through the opening. So he's all pissed off, and I'm trying to counsel him, and he's like, "This is why you should be with me." And so we pull into the trading post as a gun shop, and he walks in with the gun. He goes, "I'll trade this for a 6-pack right now." But anyways, he ended up trading it for a 25-06 bolt action, way more manageable of a gun, and he loves that thing now. But every time we go by that hill, we call it Heartbreak Hill. It's just funny. It's an Ansel story, He's just
That guy's awesome.
Oh, he is awesome.
Get him on sometime. He's got more stories than we could shake a stick at.
Oh my God, yeah. He's got a story from. He shot a deer. This is way back. He shot a deer and he had good blood. This is with his bow. He had good blood, so he set his bow on the blood, and he said, "I'll meet up with my buddies. We'll go to breakfast. We'll come back. We'll find that deer." Well, they went to breakfast. They never found his bow. So, not really that funny because the poor deer probably died. But a year later, they found his bow. And that bow is hanging from his buddy's camp to this day.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's like, how can you misplace a... But I guess there's no Onyx back then, and they were in some big country. But it's just like, this kind of shit only happens to him,
Yeah.
But yeah, so
that's funny.
But yeah, so the near misses though, I mean,
it's all part of it.
You got to talk about them.
It's all part of it.
I think the hunting space on social media is just full of, or 90% of success, and when things go right, and it's just it's good. I love to hear about it too, but I think that it's only fair to be realistic and talk about it all.
Yep,
you know what I mean? Because we spend a lot of days where that's not the end result. You spend a lot of days where you're, headed home cold, tired, sore, hungry.
Saying, what the fuck did I do wrong?
Well after dark, saying, what did I do wrong and what am I doing? And the only answer most of us ever come up with is, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
Yep. But that's where I have my problem passing up small deer.
Yeah.
Because I'll see that small buck and I'll be like, oh man, if I shoot that thing, it's going to be a fun night. We're going to get it out of the woods. It's going to be a nice little party in the garage.
Party.
That's where I got to get a little bit better about that.
Yeah.
But it's all fun.
It's all part of it. Yeah. No, it's good to talk about it for sure.
No, yeah.
Everybody's got them. Everybody's got those stories. And if you don't have one at this point, if you're listening to this and you don't have a story like that, you will coming. At some point.
You will.
It's all part of it.
I don't wish it on you, but it's coming.
It is. You learn from it, what you can do, what you can't do. But Well, it's probably a good way to wrap it up there. It was
sure.
a fun little episode, shooting the breeze and talking some deer stories and all that fun stuff. We apologize for the little delay in uploads recently. We've been working crazy hours, getting everything ready for this year, and just working. So we haven't been doing a ton of recording, but we have some really good guests lined up, scheduled, that we'll be recording with soon and getting you guys all those new episodes that you've been waiting for. So we apologize for the lapse in uploads recently, but appreciate you tuning into this one, and we'll see you guys on the next one.